Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 567 of the DrunkNerds podcast. As always, I'm Tyler, and joining me, we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Sir Colonel Gables. What is up, buddy?
Man, I'll tell you what. Doesn't matter how many times that I come on to record and stuff like that. It's just always feels nice just have something different from the norm, especially from the everyday work day and stuff like that. Just have that few days off and stuff and just bullshit around.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
Yeah.
I'm doing pretty good. Been watching a whole bunch of Twitch, not gonna lie. I have been playing some bit of games like here and there, but it's not like anything concrete yet. I haven't really felt in the mood to just play solidly one game for a while. And kind of be honest with you, it's kind of refreshing. It's that time now where I feel like I need to recharge lot of stuff before diving into something just heavy in terms of gaming stuff. Like for example, I did the whole organizing the games beat last week, and now I'm just going through and just watching other people play certain games this week. But I'm doing good for myself right at this moment. How are you, Tyler?
I'm doing all right, about Sam, I agree with you, Gables. We talked about it before. It's nice. We have this to look forward to every week, for over a decade now. It's like I've talked about before, like this doing this podcast with you was like the one constant of my adulthood. We've been
I
through
know it.
relationships, job changes, major life changes. Added family members, lost family members, and yeah, here we are. This is this podcast, Gables. You and I,
Yep.
we're the one goddamn constant. Now
Mhm.
we're in our mid goddamn 30s. We're getting old. Uh,
But at the same time, not forgotten.
no, that well, I'm forgetting a lot of things now, but more than usual. But it's not, still there. Still some stuff still there up there. Um, But I don't know if that's maybe just the accumulation of getting harder to stay up late or drinking beer. I'm not sure what that is, uh, or just getting older. Probably all three of those things actually. But yeah, no, I'm doing okay. Otherwise, just been clanging and banging. It's a long week, Gables. It's a very long week. It's a very trying week. Um, Very busy work week. It's hot as fuck outside. It was definitely getting off work last night on Friday night, and like I tried playing some like I was gonna play some AEW Fight Forever, and
Yeah.
like all of my joints were just hurting. I'm like, I've never felt this before. Like you've had like the achy back or your feet hurt or something like that. But I'm like everything hurts. Like I was just trying to play the game. I'm like hitting buttons and my fingers were hurting. I'm like I can't play this game anymore. Like I played for like probably 30, 40 minutes. I'm like I just gotta stop because I it hurts to play video games right now. I'm like what is wrong with me? Uh, so
Oh, who knows? Maybe the onset of carpal tunnel just
yeah.
rearing its
No,
ugly head.
but it was just like every like knees, feet, back, neck, everything was hurting yesterday. I think it was just a accumulation of the work week and just been like in the hundred and like
Fatigue.
tens, yeah, this week. But yeah, so I haven't played much video games either this week. I started a little bit of Oxenfree. I'll talk about later. But I was very exhausted today, so I was kind of just did a lot of lounging today. So, but yeah, no. Other than that, just clanging and banging as always. Gables feels good to do this. Like I said, feels good to do this podcast. But yeah, if you guys, if you're fans of the show, you listen to us regularly, or it's your first time, thanks for sticking around. But also, hit the like button, hit the follow button, subscribe buttons, 5-star reviews, wherever you're listening to us at, whether it's YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever pods are on. We're pretty much on them. If you're listening somewhere else or watching us and you want to listen to us later or somewhere else, or just subscribe, just give us the click, give us the download, give us a review, share with your friends, tell your friends really do stuff like that really helps out. So just do that for us. Get that 5-star, all that stuff. Just whatever podcast services you listen to, look up Drunk Nerds, Drunk Nerds Podcast, whatever you'll find us. And leave that review. Hit that subscribe button. Just download. You don't have to listen. Just download the podcast. Download all five. There's 567 of them. Download them all. I want to look at the chart. I want to see a fresh 567 downloads. That's what I want to see when I look at the chart tomorrow. So do all that, and then go over to Twitter or X. Is it X? I don't know. Whatever it is now, Gables. Go over there.
To you.
Yeah, X is gonna give it to you. That's what they call them now instead of retweets. Um, but yeah, go there, do that. Facebook, we're on there as well. Follow us on there. Look, just Drunk Nerds, Drunk Testers podcast. Follow us over there, please. But Gables, without further ado,
Yes.
should we get into some of the news this week?
Yes,
All,
let's dive right in.
all right. So start off here, Gables. Yeah, it's been a weird summer. I just gotta start off before we actually in the news here. I feel this feels like a very old school summer where like a
Hmm.
lot of shit happened at that typical E3 time. Now we had Summer
Yep.
Game Fest, and it's been not much since. It's been a lot of trickling of news. Like we had the FTC and Activision stuff going on and Xbox. Like there's a lot of that. We had like a direct and stuff like that, but it's not. We haven't had that. July was a very quiet month. I'll just say, um, but we got some decent stuff this week though. Um, so Ubisoft has canceled another game. I've lost
Yeah.
count. They've canceled well over a dozen games uh, that they've talked about publicly. This isn't just like stuff behind the scenes. Like they've publicly talked about in the last couple of years now. And one of the games they actually canceled, oddly enough, a game that was never actually announced by them, was the Immortals. Immortals Phoenix Rising, I believe, is what the first game was called. Um, the first one came out, was that December 2020 or 2021?
I want to say
Might have
2020.
been 2020. I think, yeah. But yeah. Anyways, I remember it came out in December. And it was like that. It was like very much like a Greek mythology, like Breath of the Wild style game, and it got middling reviews. It wasn't bad, but it seemed like people were just kind of like, yeah, it's a fine game. I know people like, I know you enjoyed it. I know a lot of people that played it like, got into it and liked it. But I know like for the most part, but I don't think it blew anybody away. It was like a solid like 7 out of 10 kind of game. And I don't know how well it sold. Like, I don't know if it was like a problem of just like it came out in December, and it also came out. There was literally within like a month of each other, Ubisoft put out two other big games. Um, it was Watch Dogs Legion, uh, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It was 2020, and this game all came out within like 6 weeks of each other. Also around
Yep.
the launch of the new consoles. So this game kind of got
Yep.
buried. But anyways, so this game has been in development at Ubisoft Quebec. It was canceled earlier this month, so in July, and it was intended to explore different mythologies around Greece with future games. In this one, they're actually gonna do Hawaiian Polynesian myths. Uh, and there's actually this is actually Jeff Grubb talked about this last year. He announced he leaked this out, and then also I think I can't remember if it was early this year or late last year. Some screenshots of the game leaked out online as well, and you could see like looks like a Samoan person like was the character you're gonna play as. Um, and yeah, so this was delayed. I guess it was like an early playable state. So it's been being worked on for a while, and I guess it was progressing pretty well. Team felt pretty good about it, and they actually canceled it. So oddly enough, though, Ubisoft, so VGC Andy Robinson announced this cancellation, uh, and oddly enough, Ubisoft responded to this. Normally, when this stuff happens, we don't hear a response, and they responded to it and did in fact confirm it and say that they moved the team over to help out and work on some other projects. And Andy Robinson said that project is the Assassin's Creed Red game, which I believe is the Japan game that they're making. That I believe is supposed to come
Right.
out. I think it's like rumored to come out next year. Um, so yeah, basically, it's kind of like the Ubisoft or the Activision effect of like we're pulling these teams off of these other games to let's keep this cash cow rolling with Assassin's Creed. Like we've been hearing a lot of them doubling down. There are now at least 6 Assassin's Creed games that are they Ubisoft has said they're working on. That's just what we know of. Uh, Not including like the mobile games, stuff like that. There's like the Infinity, there's the VR game, there's Red, there's the Witch one, there's Mirage, and I can't remember what else is out there. I can't. There's another one that was announced too. I can't remember what it is. Uh, so yeah, we're just kind of in this weird spot where like, I don't know. It was like I know you played a little bit of Immortals, but
Yes.
I was kind of surprised by like I think a lot of people like I've seen a lot more people talk about that game. Like, man, like I actually enjoyed this game. It just needed a sequel. Um, and I don't know. I know you played a little bit of it. I never got around to playing it. It's on PS Plus Extra, I believe. I should probably check it out maybe
Yep.
eventually. But I don't know how you feel about this news, Gables.
I feel it's a shame. I mean, really, the first game had a good base to it, and you know what? It definitely had its own kind of like flaws and its own type of like things that kept it from truly becoming a great game. But at the same point, this definitely felt like a game to where the sequel could have been a lot better than the initial game that was offered up to point and stuff. And it's kind of disappointing because like in terms of the Polynesian themes and stuff like that, you had a lot of good potential in terms of like what they could delve into the mythos and stuff of that culture and do all that other stuff. But yeah, it's kind of sad that that game didn't make up enough funds in order to justify not just making a full on sequel to it, but at the same point, it's like they definitely had a sequel in mind, but moving that team towards other projects, which is mostly Assassin's Creed, like you just touched upon, the whole Activision effect of putting all your major developers on one cash cow and stuff in order to try to dish out like that specific property and stuff. And we see how well that's been doing for Activision.
Yeah, yeah.
but
Well, it's like it's a weird thing where like it's a long term issue. Like short term, they're just
yes,
keeping like they're barely like they're just scraping shit together to get a game out this year, and it's like they're just we're fixing today's problems, but we're like we're putting band-aids on today's problems, but we're bleeding out, and it's going to cause long-term effects down the road, kind of
well,
thing. But go ahead, sorry, I cut you off.
well, like I was saying though, it's like the other thing that it tells me is they're really making hard on Assassin's Creed Mirage this year, and not just that, but like in terms of the future stuff in the next 3 or 4 years in that regards, because cutting off the smaller projects that are not going to be doing like so well financially. I mean, it doesn't surprise me too much that they did go through and cancel the sequel of it, even though, like I said before, it's a shame. The sequel could have been a lot better,
Yeah,
but at the same time, a lot of business decisions Ubisoft has been making over the past a couple months in terms of like
a couple
saving and
years.
dying. Yeah, kind of wish that they could would have did the same thing with Skull and Bones, but you know they have
Yeah,
an obligation in order to put out this game.
yeah, with Vietnam, not Vietnam. Can't remember what it is now. But yeah, I mean, it's so weird, like wh- what's going on like in the gaming industry, where it's like I am not like at all like a smart financial person. Like I'm not terrible with it. I mean, I do have a lot of shit back there. You can see on my
Right.
shelf, but not. But like, it's just so it's baffling to me. Where like I see like these things like okay, this isn't gonna work. Like oh, this is a problem. And I imagine they do too. But it's like I hope they do at least. But it's like what is the like I don't know. This is like going not to go on a rain about the stock market type thing. But it's like yeah, we're just like we are just trying to keep the price up as much as possible and not hurt ourselves as much.
Right.
But like just to get by today. What's the saying? I'll gladly take a hamburger a day and I'll pay you tomorrow, whatever it is. I can't remember what the saying is, but like you're just I don't know. You're just delaying the inevitable here. You're actually making it worse for yourself by trying to just keep up today and like you're not investing long term in your company. We're like
Right.
yeah, and we have a problem here where like it's like what I say about like me like seeing this issue because we've seen this issue with like but the problem is like when you look at Activision, you look at like an EA where it's like EA has a FIFA and a Madden that there's issues there. Don't get me wrong, but
Right.
those games still produce. They're at the very least they are still good games. Like they're fun to play. There's other problems there. Don't get me wrong, but they're still like putting out solid games. They're putting them out every year, and they make them a, close to $1 billion a piece every year. So they always have this thing that pays money for everything else. Like that's they're solid off that. You look at 2K where like they
Right.
have or Take Two where they have NBA 2K, they have Grand Theft Auto Online. It's just printing money for them still. Um, like they just don't want to put games out and they're fine. You look at Activision, like yeah, like there's a lot of issues. We talk about Call of Duty, but it's like those games are still making tons of money for them. Like yeah, we talk about
Yeah.
like their issue, like they're running out of ideas, like they're just going back to old ideas, like. But we, but it's easy for us to say because we're not in the ecosystem. It's like when I hear people talk about Madden and their issues, I'm like, I still love Madden. I put 100 plus hours every year, kind of thing. So it's like it's easy from like being outside of it to like talk about it in that sense. But yeah, but they still have Call of Duty still printing them $1 billion+ every year. Um, but Ubisoft doesn't have that, and it's like this
No, they
issue,
don't.
and like, but we talk about them like they were the trendsetter a decade ago, going into that PS4, Xbox One generation. They were building the games of the future. Like the games, a lot of the games that we play now are just basically the build up of the games that they originally they made those games initially, and like the map
Yes.
games, all that. Like I'm not, they didn't invent open world games, but like the formula that we follow in most big games now, they invented. Um,
Hell, even Nintendo has borrowed a lot of those aspects, especially when it
yeah,
comes to some of their own
yeah. I mean,
games.
you look at, I mean, fucking like, I mean, don't really freak out here. Breath of the Wild. A lot of the things they kind of took from it. I'm not saying obviously there's way more to that game. It's way better than anything they ever made. Trying to put out a million things here so no one gets mad at me. But the base idea of what a map game is, like they kind of took some of the formula of that. So with the towers and all that, like they kind of built the formula, and obviously Breath of the Wild just built upon that formula. But
Yep.
back to Ubisoft here, um, they don't have that, and we see them just throwing shit out, trying to make shit work, and but it's like it's obvious that they have like, but it's like I talk about every now and again, like a lot, but like a lot of times with game, like us as gamers, you could tell when they're not confident in something. You could tell when they're trying to hide shit. You could tell when they're extremely confident and they know full goddamn well this thing is gonna hit. Like look at Starfield. They put up almost hour long direct out just for Starfield.
Oh no
You
shit.
look at PlayStation did a whole state of play just for Final Fantasy 16. We when you know, or like Nintendo with Tears of the Kingdom, like we didn't know anything about that game until it came out. Like literally like two
Yes.
weeks before they did a 10-minute gameplay uh uh direct for it. And like that was the first time we saw actual gameplay for that game. Um you know, it's like we don't have to show you shit and you're gonna buy it and it's gonna be awesome. And you know what? They were right. Um so yeah, like but it's so obvious. Like we see like they've thrown out these multiple live service, like these battle royale style games that just came and went, or they announce a game and then like they do some shit like a couple betas and it doesn't do well. People don't like, they get bad reports of the beta and it just goes away for a long time and then like they bring it back years later or they rework it, or like what was it, roller champions, they like
Yeah.
announced like 3 years 4 years ago, uh and then they just literally put it out like with a week's notice. It's free to play game. It's out next week, and that was it. And like it was like cool. People played it. It was talked about for like a day, and we never talked about it again. Um, and now we see them like I thought about like the Call of Duty thing, where they're just like we've seen like Toys for Bob and all these companies get shut down by Activision Blizzard to just go work on Call of Duty games to keep that going and Overwatch going, stuff like that. And we're seeing this with that, where it's like problem is like they're investing so much other shit. Like they're not building anything else. I'm sure they got other little things. So I'm not saying that, but like they're cutting so much other things off that the problem is like say what happens in a few years where like what if we get to the part where well, most gamers were with Assassin's Creed, where we were so burnt out on it in like the mid 2010s that they had to take a year off and like totally redo the whole formula with not Origins, and basically just do the Fallout. And then they just kind of did the Witcher games, and we they did three pretty good great games for a lot of people, um, and then we kind of got burnt out again, and now they took a year off, and now we're getting Mirage. Hey, we're going back, but then we're also going to go right back with Red. We're going to go back to the Witcher formula. But what happens in a few years when like that formula is not hitting, and maybe it's like not selling as well, or it's not doing enough to pay for everything else. You know, like Far Cry 6 came out a couple years ago, and it's like it sold well, but it's like that was the first time where it's like even like the hardcore fans were just like, yeah, it was okay. Like I played it, but I wasn't like I didn't love it like the last ones, you know. And I was the same way. I put like 5-6 hours, and I'm like I'm just kind of bored, you know. And then I hear like it takes like 40 hours a beat. I'm like, no, I'm out. Like Valhalla, you know, I've beaten all the Assassin's Creed games. I got the Valhalla. I put like 15 hours into it, and I talked to somebody. It's like, no, it's like legitimately like a 70, 80 hour game. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm done. I'm moving on. And it sucks, you know, because like there's good games here. It's just like they're too bloated, or you just get tired of the formula. Um, so yeah, like what happens a couple years here where like Far Cry 7 comes out, like there's multiple Far Cry games in development. There's a half dozen or more. They said they were in January. They said they were increasing the amount of employees working on Assassin's Creed games by 40%. 40%. There's over
Oh,
2,000 people working on Assassin's Creed games right now, and that's just
so
one.
that doesn't make sense. I mean, I know they use a lot of people in terms of like creating a one Assassin's Creed game, but at the same point, it's like, what else do they really have to go forth and have that many people on for? I mean,
Well, I mean, I get to certain aspects where it's like, the games take longer than ever, and the expectations are higher than ever. The games are gonna be we kind of keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we want better. We want, there is a fan. There's that fan in you, like, where the expectations are getting like at certain points, maybe a little bit unrealistic on our side, and that's admitted. I can admit that. Sometimes like maybe we expect too much, but we also want them as fast as possible. So there is that to it. Um, yeah, so I get why. I mean, having 6 Assassin's Creed games maybe in development is maybe not that crazy of an idea.
right?
Announcing them so early in advance maybe is a crazy idea. I don't know. But I mean, that's been the issue with Ubisoft forever. Is they announce so many games so far in advance, and then we don't hear about half of them, or that we don't hear about them for years, or they're like 5 projects down the line. I don't know. It's crazy. Where like we've seen this with like EA, we've seen this with Activision. It's like we see Activision. They cut everything off to like all they had left was Call of Duty, Call of Duty, and that was it. And they sold the studio off to Xbox or Microsoft rather,
Yeah,
because they knew that they fucked themselves down the line. EA were like, we just want big live service and multiplayer games and all like we just want everybody's got to work in this formula. Everybody's got to make games in our engine. We can't do anything else. And now we've seen them like with multiple Star Wars games now, Dead Space. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple other games here too. Even like the like Immortals of Avium, or like what's It Takes Two, shit like that. Like I've been talking about for the last like few years now. They've been killing it. They've been doing awesome. Like they still have their other shit, but like they are making other great games that are selling well and they're good. And like like we're actually excited for EA games again. Um, so yeah, like it's so crazy. It's like they changed because they knew they had to. And like I said, it helps that they have a FIFA and they have a Madden that will keep them going. But it's like I don't know, like maybe we talk like Assassin's Creed. That first game was I thought it was a good game, but it was nowhere near the expectations that they set for us. And then they made two,
hmm.
and that was like that set the franchise that built upon it. Far Cry 3. I mean that was, it's like that's what set the franchise. No, I don't know if Immortals could have done that, but they had a good quality game there that could have been something if they built upon it. Watch Dogs 2 was like Watch Dogs 1. I know it gets a lot of shit, and it was. I always talk about. I defended the game like I'm not saying it was great. Never said it was great, but it was a good game. It just did not
Right.
live up to the expectation at the moment. And then Watch Dogs 2 came out, and it was fucking awesome. And then they made Watch Dogs Legions, and it was not. It's like, what are you
It's
doing?
boring.
Yeah, it was just not a good game. And it's like, man, you had it with 2. That game fucking ruled. Like you made an awesome game there and you fucked it up. So I, mean, I don't know. Maybe they just fuck it up. I don't know. It's just it's baffling that like we see what all these other big studios like that basically have the same issues that Ubisoft is having, and we've seen what happens when like EA pivoted and corrected a little bit here, and they went back and they made solid games, and Activision didn't, and they sold the studio. So I don't know. I hope they turn around because I want we want more big studios. You could talk a lot of shit about these people and like some of their business practices. Like I'm not going to defend some of that shit, but it's like these big studios being around, not being owned by PlayStation or Microsoft. Like bigger, these we want as many of these as possible. We want more big games to happen. Like I always think it's stupid to root against companies like this, but that's just companies, but like good games. Like it's stupid to root against games. So I don't know. I hope they can turn around. I'm always gonna hope for them, but not feeling great, Gables. Something I maybe feel great about though, Gables.
Hmm.
Pokemon Presents, possibly on August 8th.
Oh
So
yeah.
what's going on here is a line of code was found in the latest update for the mobile Pokemon game, Pokemon Masters EX, that refers to an in-game campaign relating to a Pokemon Presents, and the campaign is due to start on August 8th. For I understand here, every recent Pokemon presentation has featured a tie-in to the game and an in-game event, and usually always starts that same day. So August 8th is not this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. So
Yep.
about a week and a half away. Um, we've talked about this that we thought there would be one eventually sometime this like late summer
Yeah.
or September. There is the DLC that is supposed to be happening for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. We're supposed to get part one this fall and then part two early next year. And
We haven't got a deep dive at
we
all
haven't
in
seen even
regards to
get
the
really,
first deals.
yeah, we haven't really gotten gameplay for it. We got some like little like little shots of like what to expect, but we haven't seen like what are we doing? What's the point of this? They've been taking pre-orders for fucking 6 months now though for it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know we're gonna get like what's the Pokemon MOBA game? It's actually pretty decent. I'm sure we'll get updates.
Oh, Pokemon Unite.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
game's pretty decent actually. But yeah, imagine we'll get stuff like they're gonna fill in stuff like that. And they're always kind of different in time. Like they're not like some are like just like 10, 15 minutes. So some are like literally a trailer. So um, we talked about the Pokemon 5 rumors last week. But how you feel,
Yep.
Gables, about like do you think, assuming this happens, I feel like it's a decent chance. I won't be shocked. But I feel pretty good that will happen. Maybe not on the 8th, but around that point we'll get something. They have to do one soon. But how excited are you for this DLC? And do you think we hear more about the future of Pokemon?
Let's see. As far as my excitement for the expansions that will be coming out towards the end of this year, well, honestly, it's really kind of mixed right now. Not gonna lie. The first, like finishing up Pokemon Scarlet, didn't really have too much motivation to play any more afterwards and stuff. That really kind of like played a large factor in me not being interested when the first DLC hit. But at the same time, the second expansion really does kind of have my attention because it ties into a lot of the rumors that are coming out of the potential of some game or some major thing happening in terms of tie in a lot of the Generation 5 games towards another supposed game that's rumored. But in terms of the future of the Pokemon stuff, I am kind of excited because of the possibility of Game Freak twisting Generation 5 into a different direction that isn't just the stereotypical, oh, hey, let's remake this generation of Pokemon games. And then from there, we can just go forth and just do whichever. Because the last time they did that was with Brilliant Diamond and Shining
Meh.
Pearl, which you know what? Those were
Yeah.
meh. Really. Those were kind
Yeah.
of meh at best because you had a great game at its core. But at the same time, the stylings, the presentation of it, everything else was a step down to what came previously in terms of a remake, which was Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Things that were invested inside not just the looks department, not just new features, but also in terms of like the different variety of Pokemon you had a chance to play.
Yeah.
And there were other new aspects inside of those two games alone that justified the
Or
purchasing of
even
both Omega
Let's
Sapphire
Go
for me.
ones.
Let's Go ones for fun too. I mean, I actually like the Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu over say like
Yeah.
Brilliant Diamond only
I still have my
because
Pokeball sitting here.
with
I haven't used
yeah,
it
well,
since.
what's funny is it's like not just saying like Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are bad games. I mean, no, no, far from it. They're still good games in and of itself, but in comparison to what I have personally played previously, as have a lot of Pokemon fans with Pokemon Platinum, the remakes of like Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. We have played better Pokemon games that have presented themselves well with new features from these remasters. So, in regards to the future, I am sort of excited because they may be trying something different other than just recycling something that's stale, give it off to a different type of developer, and then have them produce their own type of remakes for a generation. Because I feel like personally, it was a huge misstep to go with that direction for Brilliant
Yeah.
Diamond and
Well,
Shining Pearl.
no,
Because
sorry to cut you off, but that was not made by them, right? That wasn't Game Freak. Yeah, okay.
no, no, it wasn't Game Freak. It was like Dyna or something like not
Yeah.
Dyna or something like
It's a
that. It was
support
another.
studio.
It was it was a support studio. That's exactly right. It was a support studio that was separate from like Game Freak. But like I was saying though, it's like Generation 5 even if it's like say like a Legends Arceus, or if it's like a like style game, or if it's just a full on sequel to Black 2 and White 2. I mean, it's something that's completely different in that aspects. But I'm more so excited in seeing the rest of expansion 2. I know we're not going to be seeing a lot of previews of a supposed Pokemon Directs immediately because we're seeing the gameplay aspects of the Teal Mask and what it
Yeah.
revolves around. But at the same point, I'm excited more so for the second expansion. But like I was stating previously before, I really am not too excited right now in terms of what they got going so far. Scarlet was its own thing, had a lot of myriad problems, and they have not issued any type of major updates to fix a lot of those glitches and problems. And Nintendo purposely let this
Yeah.
thing go for over almost close to a year now. That's way too
Yeah.
long. And quite honestly, the amount of content they got present right now with the Teal Mask does not, in my honest opinion, justify purchasing those two expansions yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Cause what are they, $30? I'm not even sure. Um,
it's
it's
about
35.
35
Fuck you.
actually.
I don't know why the
Yeah, it's
$5 made me
$35 for
even
both
angry,
expansions.
angrier. It's like it's $5 more, but I was like, ah, $30, whatever. 35, fuck off. Really? I don't know why that made me mad, but yeah, yeah, it's so weird. I'm in a weird place, Pokemon, where it's like I'm excited what's next, but it's like there's that part of you. It's like we're a scorn lover right now. It's like I want to love you, but man, you really let me down, and you really haven't apologized for the last thing you just did, and you want me to like go back and love you some more. Um, I don't know, and you haven't like yeah, you haven't tried to change at all, try to fix anything, but yeah, I don't think we're gonna hear anything from that maybe because like you look at normally like they have a formula typically for Pokemon announcements where it's like they usually do something big on Pokemon Day. Like they had the Scarlet Violet announcements. Like the year before that, they had Legends Arceus and the Gen 4 announcement. Usually, like they announce like what they're doing for the next year on Pokemon Day, um, and then like the rest of the Pokemon Presents are usually just updates from there. Um,
Yes.
so I think this, I do, maybe they tease something, but I don't, I think it's really would just be like, we got to do a deep dive on this expansion that they're trying to sell us. And, cause this is like their big thing for the fall. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right. Where like, it felt like from like the little bit of like gameplay stuff that we did get at the last direct, where it was like, it really feels like part one is like it's the typical Nintendo thing where it's like there's two part DLC here, but you have to buy all of it. You can't buy just one or the other. And the first one is like nothing that you're really like nothing you get too excited for. It's like here's a little bit more content, but it's like nothing. And then but part two is like the big expansion thing that you actually care about. Um, so yeah,
Right.
like I think that's gonna be the case. But like I wonder like yeah I don't know. I think it's just gonna be like a more of a deep dive on what these are. And I don't know, like I will be cautiously optimistic for this, I guess, because like I want, it's like I want to be excited for Pokemon and what's next from them. I want a Pokemon Legends 2. Um, I would love. I'm still holding out hope for that Pokemon Let's Go uh, Generation 2 game. That's like the dream. I've been talking about that for years now. That's been my ultimate dream from to make that, or just like a even better full blown remake of Generation 2 of Gold and Silver. Uh, but I think today is the 22nd anniversary of the release of Crystal. Um, Today I saw that on
Hmm.
Twitter.
Just a second. Because I remember that game reveal, maybe in
Maybe
Japan
it's
or something
Japan. I'm
like
not
that,
sure. It
but
could be Japan.
it's Japan. It's in America. I think it released in
Did it?
September.
Okay. I just saw it was today's. I don't remember what year. I think it was 2001. That was the Crystal. Maybe it was 2000. I'm not sure. It was today's the anniversary of Crystal being released though. My
Fun fact about Pokemon Crystal: when that game released and stuff, I actually got that from Costco. My mom actually bought that for me back
Oh
then.
wow. I remember.
Yeah,
I
I
remember.
remember it because
What?
I remember reading Nintendo Power magazines going upwards to that release.
Yeah. I was getting it for Christmas, and that was like the last one I ever played through. Was Crystal. Still one of the coolest,
So
hypest moments ever though when you beat the Elite Four and then you find out you go back to Gen 1 and it's like, oh shit, and then
mhm.
at the end you fight Red. Oh, that was awesome. It's still one of the coolest moments in gaming history. Um, but man, just imagine Gables in like today with like the technology we have today. That moment of walking up the hill and seeing Red and like today's graphics, fucking awesome.
Yeah, that was so epic back then.
Yeah,
I really am surprised and never tried to integrate like two different regions inside of the same game
yeah,
after
yeah.
that.
Or just a call back to previous generations. Just doing that, and like basically fighting yourself from Gen 1 again. Um, yeah, I don't know. Man, I don't know. I'm just so conflicted with Pokemon. It's like it's so weird. It's like I want to like not give you money because I'm mad at you, but I just want you to do something goddamn cool again because like I want to love you. It's so weird. It's a weird. I'm gonna like this is like a weird spot for me. But I don't know. I'll watch the thing. We will watch it if it happens. We'll talk about it. But yeah, it's so
Yeah,
weird
of
because Gilbert,
course.
you're the Pokemon guy. You always have been. And it's like it's so weird. Like I've always been the guy. Like I've jumped back into it. With X and Y. It's like is that 2014? Jesus Christ, it's been almost a decade. 2013. It's been a
2013.
decade. Jesus Christ. Um, I've always been. I jump into it because it gives me that nostalgia of being a child, and it's like, you're still that hardcore fan. It's so crazy. Like we are like, for the first time ever, like in the same wavelength with Pokemon right now. It's so weird. Um,
Yeah.
but moving on here though. Uh, yeah, we'll go with this one. So Insomniac Gables is making a third fucking video game.
So crazy to
Yeah,
think
so
about.
crazy. When we hear about all these studios, we're getting like one game a generation from some of these studios, and like here they are pumping out. They've already pumped out two. We're getting a third one in like 3 months, and we got another one coming next year, and possibly another one shortly after that. So oddly enough, this was like there was the director Aaron Eberhardt, I believe is how you pronounce her name. So she
Yeah.
did an interview at Full Sail University last September, um, and it just now like made the rounds on social media this week, which is pretty crazy. That none of this leaked. Otherwise, so she previously worked for PlayStation, at the PlayStation Now, uh, on the Sony Interactive team. She also was worked for Blizzard on the esport initiative, and then she came back, I believe, in 2021 to Insomniac. And this, she said, this is actually my first AAA game. Uh, I'm the project director here on Unannounced Project. I'm very excited to be actually making the games now. So she came back around the same time that a job listing went out for Insomniac for working on a multiplayer game. So, but I think a lot of people are just assuming this is a multiplayer game. Um, Also around that same time, they got the rights back to Sunset Overdrive, which was the that was the Xbox One.
Oh,
It was like came out shortly after
shit.
launch for Xbox One. They got the rights. PlayStation got the rights back for that one. I think a lot of us assumed there would be like they just put the game out again, on PlayStation, which never actually happened. Some people are like talking about that is a Ratchet game. Everybody's talking about All for One. I've been hearing a lot about All for One, the Ratchet and Clank game from was that PS2, I want to say, or PS3, the multiplayer game.
Right.
Um, or is it Spider-Man, something like that. I don't know. It was like how you feeling about potentially a third game from them and possibly being a live service game? And what if it like
Hmm.
what if they were making a live service game of the IPs I mentioned? What would be the one that you think could be the best?
Well, it definitely wouldn't be Sunset Overdrive or anything else
I
like
think it was
that. I
good.
mean,
It's a good
for
game.
one, it's good, but at the same time, it doesn't have the mass appeal to like, let's say, a Russian Flank or like a Spider-Man or like any of the other IPs they come up with. In
Oh,
the
Gables, you're starting to cut
But
out, Bodie.
one life,
Yeah, I can hear you. You're just cutting out. 1 second. I'm gonna pause this.
okay.
Let's get this.
Well, honestly, when it comes to the live service stuff, I don't really believe it's going to be a property, say like a Sunset Overdrive or something like that. But I'll tell you what, though, the one property I think makes the most sense in terms of a live service type of aspect is Resistance.
Mm.
Re- Resistance
Okay.
is a
Well, spit up
property
my
that
beer.
hasn't been, yeah, Resistance is a property that hasn't been touched since Resistance 3 on the PS3. And Insomniac was a major developer in terms of like presenting that game in a way that could, you know, from other aspects and stuff, could benefit from a live service type of foray into it because it's like you have that general game world, you have that type of perspective. It's a familiar brand with longtime PlayStation fans because of the fan base that it accumulated through the PlayStation 3, that trilogy of games. But having it to an extent to where if that was going to be presented for and foremost, that's something that you can have like PlayStation gamers or something like this. Gamers in general want to invest in from day one, as long as you have the different types of weapons from both the humans and the Chimera and stuff like that present, as long as you get the missions that are relatively good and have good storytelling with it. Granted, I've only played through the original Resistance Fall of Man, which I thought was fine. You know, it was a solid 8 out of 10 personally for me, but I know that there are plenty of gamers out there that really love Resistance 2 and the multiplayer that had, and also Resistance 3 because the story, the whole tying up and the loose ends and stuff. But even if it's like a reboot in terms of like the Resistance franchise in and of itself, something barring say like Nathan Graves and stuff like that, I mean that in itself has a lot more potential in terms of having it be like a lucrative sort of like free to play like live service style of game, or maybe even not like that, maybe even if it's just like a reboot of just Resistance Fall of Man, in
Yeah.
terms of this
Do a
today's
remake.
day. Yeah, like a remake of that in sort of this day and age, but then having some form of like live service things maybe tied to it that could be potential moneymaker. I mean, we can't really dismiss this is because Insomniac was key to making that franchise as good as it was, and Sony hasn't really done anything with that series ever since, back before, they purchased like Insomniac to have them develop
Yeah.
games now.
That was
So,
like, well, they bought them in like 2019, I think.
2019, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So yeah, no, it's interesting. I totally forgot that was the Insomniac thing. So who did Killzone? No, that was
Killzone was,
that's the Horizon team.
yeah, that's a Horizon team, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. Yeah. That's a good point. I totally forgot what that franchise. Killzone, another one that they just we haven't heard anything about. Like, oh, since that was a PS4 launch game. Um.
Honestly, any
So
type of first-person shooter is really ripe for them in terms of their properties for like
yeah,
a
like
life
SOCOM.
style.
Yeah. Uh.
SOCOM, Killzone, Resistance.
Yeah.
Resistance has appealing, the most appeal out of all three of those, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, maybe with like more modern day, because like SOCOM really hasn't been a thing since like the PS2 era. Like I know
Yep.
they made that one on three. They made the one on PS3 that just kind of like came. I remember it came with the headset and shit. Um,
Oh yeah.
I think it was
Zipper
shit.
Interactive put that thing out and stuff, and unfortunately, they closed like not even too long after that game
Yeah,
released.
yeah. I remember the same thing happened with Twisted Metal. They put that PS3 one. They put it
Yep.
out, and then like a month later they shut the studio down. Um,
Yeah.
what's I totally forgot what I was gonna say. What was the big multiplayer game? Not Mag. The like the robot one. Something Hawk.
Oh, you mean like Warhawk or
Warhawk. There
like?
was a sequel too. Um,
Oh
there's
my
two of them.
God, Warhawk, and then the sequel to it was Starhawk.
Starhawk, yeah, like there's so many like random franchises like back then that they can like repurpose now and like make a
Absolutely.
live service game out. It's so weird. I guess though you want like maybe it's just because they're so old or they were just like they weren't great games but they're just fine games. Maybe it's just better off making new IPs or something. I don't know. But
Exactly.
yeah,
We're at that point now to where we're far away from the PS3 and Xbox 360 and Wii generation to where going back to the going back to the well in terms of like getting some of the pre 2009 style of games or something like that. I mean, yeah, that makes a lot of sense that way.
yeah. Like I'd hope it'd be awesome if they did like a remake. Cause I totally like a Resistance or something. Cause I totally missed that franchise. Um, Same with Killzone. Totally, that was another one I just totally missed. But yeah, if I'm looking at if it's a multiplayer game, like yeah, maybe like yeah, they can make a solid like Resistance game that makes sense
Yeah.
for them. Like, and we've been talking about like, with this whole Xbox deal where like, they signed that deal for 10 years through 2034. So
Yep.
that means like 2035 they may not get a Call of Duty game. I think they will if Call of Duty is still Call of Duty in 2035, which my God, we'll be in our mid 40s by then, Gables. Uh,
I
if
know, right?
it's still hot back from and then, which is just crazy to think, but like they need to like replace. They need their own big shooter game to replace that revenue, and keep those fans around. And maybe starting off with a Resistance game, like a first-person shooter, live shooters game, not a bad place to start because most of the big uh, live service games now out there are shooter games. So it makes sense to
Yep.
like try to make one of your own. So I can see that happening. So I don't know.
As long as they can differentiate themselves from like the other first person shooter games and stuff and have their own gimmick that makes it worthwhile wanting to play over and over, then Sony should honestly be fine with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I'm hopeful. I if I hope for their sake one hits. It suck if they wasted all these years and the money on development for these games and they just kind of they don't get with just a wasteland of dead live service games. But I don't know. We will have to wait and see Gables on that one. Let's move on though to our last topic here. So Sakurai did a YouTube video on his YouTube channel. Uh, what if Sakurai just became a VTuber, Gables? I was thinking about this the other day. How would you feel about that? Personally, I'd be out at that point. I just ban.
if Sakurai just became a VTuber
Yeah,
in
I
general,
couldn't do it.
I don't know, man.
I
I mean, it all depends upon what type of content he'll actually put out.
it's what if it was the kinky kind?
Yeah, I'd be out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I like his games though, but
It's like
yeah,
I can't,
doesn't
I
work.
can't, I can't support this VTuber. I'm out. Uh, um, but anyways, no, really, I'm not trying to yuck anybody's back. I'm just kidding around, kind of. But seriously, what the fuck? Anyways, so he did a video. He was kind of talking about the future of Smash, and he said, actually, I thought real fast here. Something that's kind of interesting. He said he didn't learn about the 2008 Wii game Smash Bros. Brawl until E3 when Nintendo announced it. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought.
that makes a lot of
Yeah, it
sense.
sounds like Nintendo. So something else he was talking about here though was the question now is what happens next. I mean, whatever comes after Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, one option would be to separate the series from its original creator. But for now, at least, I can't imagine a Smash Bros. Title without me. You might think that's a natural stance for someone in my role, but I say so speaking objectively. I feel the same way President Iwata did when we formed the team for Smash Bros. Brawl. At present, we don't have someone who can simply take the reins. Smash Bros. Is a massive, important title for Nintendo, so it's fair to assume there will be another one at some point, but it's going to take some work to figure out exactly how to make that happen. For my part, I'd like to keep working with Nintendo however I'm able. So, kind of a real statement there, from typical. We don't get shit like this usually from Nintendo, from anybody, from them. So, um, but yeah, it's been this. I mean, it's been the question we've literally asked our like everybody's been asking themselves is like before Ultimate came out when they did the Everybody's Here at E3 2018. That game didn't come out until December. We're all like, how do they top this? And then we got the two DLC packs on top of that as well. It's like, how the fuck do they top this? We're talking about. I think we're up to 80 characters now in this game. Um, like, do you just do like an upgrade for assuming the Switch 2 is just a upgrade of that and it's backwards compatible? Maybe they just do like pay $10 for the upgrade, it runs better or whatever, and they just do more DLC packs. But I mean, eventually they're gonna want to put a brand new $70 Smash Bros. Out there. Um,
Oh, obviously.
and it's been the question like I think about not like once a month, but like probably once a quarter. I sit there, I look at my copy of Smash Bros. Ultimate. I'm like, fuck, man. It's like it's been 5 years almost since the last one came out. Um, and I don't know what the fuck they do from here. And it sounds like he doesn't know. Maybe obviously he probably has a lot more than he's leading on to what the future of Smash Bros. Is. He is the creator. But yeah, like, do they just? I don't know, because like I hear people say, oh, you just reboot and you start over from like ground one. You go back to the 64 game, and you just go back. You go small, but it's like You can't. No, that's
No,
people.
you can't go back after doing
No.
what you just did. There has to, with that type of foray, if you're gonna go and make another Smash Brothers, people already have pie in the sky expectations now from what exactly they were able to produce, and that was simultaneously one of the best, if not the best, crossover fighting game of that was ever released.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the properties, in terms of the characters and everything else, you're not going to get all these characters coming back in terms of aspect ever again. So, for them to top something of that sort isn't, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not, definitely not going to be something that is going to be achievable unless they want to go the easier route, which is improve upon the game currently, which if they have another system coming out in the next couple of years, the most logical sense to be like a Mario Kart 8 approach, really. I mean, I would maybe not like so much with new fighters or something like that, but I'm just saying there are general improvements that Smash Bros. Ultimate just really needs. The online in this game is absolutely terrible. If Nintendo themselves actually created a better like online infrastructure to allow like say rollback netcode for a lot of their different like fighting games, including Smash, that would be a definitely a good key thing that would entice more people to want to play it. But that also involves Nintendo having to redo their entire online stuff for the next system that comes out, which that's pretty far fetched to expect Nintendo to do something of that. I'm sorry to say, but here's the thing. When it comes to Nintendo and online stuff, they have been behind the curve quite a bit. But if we're looking at theoretically what would top what Smash Bros. Ultimate has done, you have to go forth. I maybe not have to, but an idea to be pitched upon is to create is to improve the current version of what we have available now, and like repackage it in a way and do enough changes in a way that's going to help not only improve the game's online but also improve a lot in terms of like how the game is readily presented currently. So even if it's like improvements of like the match connection stuff, or if it's an improvements in like how you're going to be playing this game with like with your friends, or more so with that, I mean, it's definitely something that Nintendo could repackage, sell for $70, and then hey, you want the new Smash Brothers right here? It still has all the characters and stuff from the previous version, but this is going to be like within an update, or it's going to be with some like a performance patch or something like that for the next
Yeah.
system. I mean, there are ways around having to do that, but that's one conversation. But if we're looking towards the next Smash Brothers game, I believe Sakurai is fairly generous, like fairly honest in what he's saying and stuff. It's like it is definitely a difficult aspect thinking about some other group of people going through and creating the next Smash Brothers because of the work that Sakurai has done over the past 20 or so on years for this series. But but I believe that with a new Smash Brothers game, I don't believe it's going to be anywhere close to Ultimate, but I do believe that a great Smash Brothers game, a new one in the works, could be in the cards, and I do believe that is possible. But yet, people are going to have to entirely lower their expectations for a lot of what we just had over the past five
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. I will say if they try to resell me a port of Smash Bros. Ultimate, I'm gonna lose my fucking shit. Because that means that we don't have backwards compatibility, which at that point, fuck
Yeah,
off. But yeah, like
it would have to be substantial in order for us to rebuy Super
well,
Smash
just
Bros.
not to
Ultimate.
have backwards compatibility at that point. Yeah, but
Really,
yeah, like the
yes.
online would be better, but I have no faith in them. Like Xbox launched 20 years ago at a better state than where Switch Online is right now, and Xbox Live
Agreed.
is gonna be dead here in a couple months. Think about that. The entire lifetime of Xbox Live is better at any point of it than Nintendo's online has ever been. Um, but Like that could be great, but that's more of like a I don't think that's even a Smash issue. That's a Nintendo Online issue. Um, yeah, man, it's the $1 million question, the $1 billion question. Like, how the fuck do you make? Like, part of me is like with Sakurai, where it's like, man, like I just kind of want you to go out. It's like I've talked about, I made this analogy before, where it's like we love like these athletes. You know, we watch Tom Brady or uh, Brett Favre or um, Peyton Manning or LeBron James, Michael Jordan, all these guys, the greatest of all times, do what they do, and when they retire, it's like so like retire and they're still good. It's like, man, like you're still so fucking good, and then a lot of them they stick around 1 year too long, and it's like it's just kind of sad to watch, kind of thing. And I don't think at any point Sakurai is gonna come out and put a bad game out, but like, man, like, what if it just
Right.
kind of comes out and it's just kind of like it's still a great game, but it's like, man, like it just can't compare to Ultimate kind of thing. Where like, what I mean, like if he just bowed out after this, like totally makes sense. And he always talked about how tired he was when making these games and needing a break. So maybe he got the break he needed and like he's ready to go back. Part of me though, it's like, man, I'd love to see how he tops it. It's one of those things where like maybe he makes that next one. It's just too much, and it's like I mean we've seen like Brawl. Brawl had a lot of problems. There's the whole tripling
Yeah.
thing was fucking stupid. Um, you look
Yep.
at like really you even look at the Smash games on the Wii U and the 3DS. Like 3DS one was not really that great. It was fine. The one on Wii U was good, and really the Ultimate is just an expansion of the Wii U version. It's all like they reuse all of the
Absolutely,
maps and
it
all the
is.
character. Well, it's all the characters and the maps, all the DLC from the Wii U version, and they just brought it over and they just built upon that with Ultimate. And that's what really all they did. Really all they did when
Yes.
it's a lot bigger than I'm not trying to undercut what they did there, but yeah, like I don't know. I mean, do you just keep adding more characters at that point, and like I don't know, like completely reset. I don't know. It's just yeah. This is the impossible question to answer, but Nintendo, like we spent 7 years talking about 6 years. How the fuck they gonna top Breath of the Wild? And they kind of did it. So like I trust the Nintendo or people. There's people in the right positions to figure out a way to top it. So, but yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to wait a while probably to see. Um, but let's move on here to some other news this week. Um, Sea of Stars, which is coming to Game Pass on August 29th, is also coming to PlayStation Plus Extra tier on the same day. So this is the first time ever
Huh.
we will have the one game launching on both services on the same day. We have games that have been on, and some games that are still on both services at the same time, but never a game launch like a day one game launch on both services at the same time.
No, not
So,
ever.
um, yeah, pretty crazy there. Um, Zelda Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons is out now on Nintendo Switch Online. Uh, Kind of crazy. They
Yep.
just kind of shadow drop that. Usually they announce it like a week in advance, and like it comes out, and like this is like no, it's out now. So pretty crazy.
Yeah, that initially did happen. What was interesting in that is they actually did showcase the special feature, the special mode you get from combining the two, which is
Yeah,
that
you can do the
dungeon.
password.
Because you could have only done it back in the day if you had two Game Boy Colors and stuff linked
Yeah,
together and have two save files that had finished the
this
game.
gives me hope for Four Swords Adventures on Game Boy NSO. That'd be great if we guys
Mm,
like do 4 player online with that. But Gables, the best news about this, they
yes,
announced all those games that were coming to Game Boy down the line for NSO. There's only one game left, Gables.
really.
It's Pokemon
Yeah.
Trading Card Game, the greatest game of all time. And I hope that if that Pokemon
uh,
Presents happens on August 8th, they officially reveal it there because it's got to be the August game. Because unless they like fuck me over and like they announce the next 20, as like we're just gonna punt Pokemon Trading Card Game down the line, I'll be so fucking pissed. Uh, this is like the like the one thing I've been waiting for from them. The one Pokemon, the one like Game Boy game I actually care about that I want to play now.
they have the best. They have a good track record of putting out the games they have
Yeah, well they
announced for
have
the
to, but
NSO.
I could just see it as like a special fuck you just to me. Like, no, we're gonna announce like 15 more. We're gonna put another Gargoyles game out uh, before we put out this game, just to fuck Tyler over. Uh, yeah,
Those
I can see him
games.
doing that. Um, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm actually excited to check these games out because I remember they were like late Game Boy Color games, so I had a Game Boy Advance at that point. Around
Oh
that
yeah,
point, so like at that point, I was like, I didn't want to play old games on my Game Boy Advance, so I was a dumb kid. So I missed those games, and I've always been more of a Zelda 2D guy than a 3D guy. So you any chance you could jump back into these
what jump back into what?
Oracles?
Yes, absolutely. Because I have the original games, right? But I've never beaten the original games, so this is a new experience even for me. Because I've played bits of these Zelda games on the Game Boy, but at the same time, even with Link's Awakening, with Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, and stuff, they're all fantastic games. But it's going to be my first time actually delving into them deeply in regards to the like Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah,
So it's going to be
that'd be fun.
interesting.
Whenever there's a gap between big games coming out, which seems like never, maybe we'll get into them. Final Fantasy 14 Gables is coming to Xbox finally in spring 2024. They also announced that other Square Enix games will be coming to Xbox as well. There was a report out that there was like an issue between Xbox and Square Enix. We never really got any idea what it was exactly, but there's some friction there. It sounds like maybe they patched it together at the Final Fantasy Fan Fest in Vegas going on right now. Phil Switcher came out with Yoshi P and they announced this. So yeah, pretty crazy. It's like it's crazy that this like you know about a year. I don't know how it's still pretty big, but maybe it's just one of those things that kind of fades in the background, but still super popular. But I mean, there was that point last year where they had to
Yeah,
like stop selling the game because they couldn't support the online anymore because it was getting so big. So yeah, cool to see it there. More people get a chance to play it, and just means more money for Xbox and Final Fantasy. So or Square Enix rather. So yeah.
absolutely.
Next up here though, Red Dead Redemption a new logo is up on the website on the Red Dead
Huh.
website. We talked about there's been that long rumored um, remaster that they're working on that they actually did talk about that they stopped working on to work on something else. I don't remember what they ever said it was. Um, and then there was uh, a, a, uh, a rating came out from South Korea for a Red Dead Redemption remaster about a month ago,
Yeah.
and then also today it went up that on the back end of the PlayStation, Red Dead Redemption was on there. So sounds like it's
Ha.
more likely and maybe coming pretty soon. So keep that in mind. Like a Dragon, Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, coming November 9th to everything. Sounds like it's only going to be digital in North America. So we know there's physical copies available in like Japan. I noticed this because when they first put it out, when it was up for the pre-order on the PSN, I looked at it. It was only $50. I was like, oh, that's kind of shocking. Like that's only a $50 game. That's weird. And this sounds like this might be the case. They put a tweet out saying that you can buy the game digitally now, but there's nothing about pre-ordering like at a Walmart or Amazon or anything like that. So we've seen this with Alan Wake 2 now.
Oh,
So maybe it's just a case of like, uh, we see digital become bigger and bigger. Maybe it's a case of like most people just probably just buy this is just buying it digitally. So it's just cheaper to be putting a box out there. So I don't know. You're the physical guy. How do you feel about this?
well, to be perfectly honest with you, I mean, I kind of find that surprising, but at the same time, this is the trend that we're leaning towards right now. If you have specific like retailers in other countries or something that are not even packing physical games now, I mean, the aspect, the idea of like a company, like Sega or something like that, not even releasing a physical form of like, say, one of their Yakuza games or some or just one of their games in general. I mean, it's not out of the question because other developers and other publishers have done that, but at the same time, it's like it is surprising because even with like brick and mortar like stores and stuff, having that initial game release is like coming inside stores inside what remains of GameStops or whatever remains of like mom and pop shops and stuff. That, in my honest opinion, is like a small step in regards to a more grander type of move and stuff. But to be perfectly honest, this isn't as big as what I'm kind of making it out to be and stuff. But I would really be surprised if, say, I don't know, like say the next Call of
Yeah,
Duty game is going to be digital only, or if it's like another, like say the last, like the Madden or whatever, if it's like a big franchise that everybody loves, but it's digital only, that's when people are going to start losing
yeah.
their
That's
shit.
that's when that's like the big games start doing it. That's when you gotta be like really concerned. So yeah, it's like games like this, like Alan Wake 2, like these smaller studios. Like they're big studios, but they're not, they're not obviously not the AAA studios. They gotta save for every buck they can. So I know it's a Sega, but it's not a huge franchise out there. Like it's got a hardcore, but it's not like this isn't a huge franchise. Um, Pretty crazy here, Gables. That Twisted Metal show
Huh.
that we've all been clowning on,
Yeah.
dunking on for like a year plus now, might actually be
Yeah.
good. Uh, it is a uh, it is a 65% Rotten Tomatoes, which is different than like an Open Critic or Metacritic. Like does not mean it's a 65 out of 100. That means 65% of people have given it a pretty positive review. Uh, it's like a 92% audience score out of 100. So like this show might actually be pretty good. Gables, who would have thought?
Oh,
Who would have thought?
well, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't really trust a lot of the reviews unless I watch or play something with my,
Well, yeah, everybody's different, but I mean, I typically when things review well, uh, when everybody's saying something's good or things are mostly good, like they usually are good. So, um, but yeah, I'm pretty shocked. It's coming to Peacock next. Oh no, I think the episode one is out now. I think it's out. I think so. Fuck,
oh,
we're gonna have to watch it now. We're gonna both watch it. Gables, I want to talk about it next week. Report back. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm shocked. This is something I thought would be like a 32 on Rotten Tomatoes. I was not expecting an actual positive score of 65 here. So, and last one,
it's only like one.
what?
But it's only like what, one
Well,
episode?
no, this is like the whole season is a 65. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
But that was reviewed only the first episode. I think only the first episode's out right now, but the reviews are for the whole season. So, yeah.
um,
And last but not least here though, Gables, PS5s have surpassed 40 million units sold. So pretty crazy. They're trending a little slower than what the PS4 did, but obviously we've seen them like catch up drastically. Um, the last about the last year or so because of they're actually in stock now. You can buy them anywhere. There's that.
right.
Obviously for the first like 2+ years on the market, it was you know fight a small child to get one. Um, and now yeah, now you can get them and like they're just kind of flying off the shelf. So um,
Oh yeah, I know for like example in my area, my area is small as it is and stuff, and it has slews of
yeah,
PS5 consoles for sale, like not just at Walmart but also Costco and like other places around. They're readily available so much now to where you can actually see them sitting on
yeah,
store shelves and
yeah.
stuff. And, yeah,
They
for
used
a
to just
while.
like they like I remember like going on a GameStop once and someone asked about it and they're like yeah we have one and it's like but they had it in the back. It's like yeah we don't want to put it out because we don't want people to see that we have one kind of thing. It's like we don't want to like it's like not to like hide it from them, but it's like we want to wait for people to ask that are actually going to buy one instead of just like well I think you just like leave them in the back and bring out when people buy them kind of thing. So now you like last time I went to like
Huh.
GameStop there was like just 4 PS5 sitting on the shelf. Like huh
I'll tell you what, I think the most fun part about this, it's just now streamlined stuff. A lot of the people back then when the PS5 first launched and stuff and just hoarded a
yeah
whole hell of a lot of them and tried to sell them and stuff, a bunch of the resellers and stuff like that just now are selling them for a
yeah
loss because a lot of them can't even sell it off for the full like initial retail price of the
yeah
PS5.
yeah. So they probably still made a bunch of money, but it makes it feel a little
Well,
bit better
yeah,
right now.
but
Or like
it just actually just makes me kind of laugh in that aspect and stuff because they thought that this train was probably going to last a lot longer than it was, but
I'm just trying to think of like why the fuck do you still have them? I would have still you think those like, you would have sold those things immediately. So I don't know. It's weird.
oh yeah, as soon as it became more available, if that were me and stuff, I would have sold the whole stock and just be done with it and move
Yeah,
on to something
yeah.
else.
I don't know. Yeah. But let's move on to Gables. What we've been playing. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first, buddy?
Let's see, I'll go first this time only because, like you, I haven't really played too much of stuff. But yeah, I've just been. I've just been like just chilling a little bit in regards to my gameplay type of stuff. I've just been playing little things like off and on the NSO and stuff. So I most recently completed a game of Mario Party 2 to where it's like I decided to okay, what's gonna happen if I go forth and like do a whole 50 turn
Oh,
sort of like Mario Party game. And like to be expected, it is complete bullshit. It's
yeah.
also kind of like monotonous too, right? But what's hilarious is like I in the span of like a month or something, I was chipping away little bits at a time at the turns, and I finally finished the game. Right, I finished. I ironically finished with like about I think it was like two or three. Not like two, no, not 2 or 3 stars. I finished with like about 7 stars or something like that, like over 300 some odd coins. And on top of that, I literally made enough coins inside the bank in order to buy the entirety of like one section of
Oh,
all the mini games and stuff like that for the single ones, not like the 2v2 or 1v3 type of mini games. But it was just kind of hilarious because going through this entire course with a space one in Mario Party 2, there was literally one turn I had and stuff to where I was separate, I was away, right? And like one of the AI characters, I think, made this move and stuff to walk past a certain portion in the center, right? And this countdown stuff, right? And when it gets to zero, you have like from the top right corner all the way down to the bottom left, like this laser that's set to fire off and stuff, like a Bowser laser set to fire off once that thing gets winded down. And I think at one point I had the AI that did that like twice or something like that to the other AI characters, but in the span of like 5 turns, that happened like 3 times because the AI characters kept going over the center part so many times. And I literally did it one time to where I did it myself, and I got all 3 AI characters and all their coins just went just set them up just to go and suck a lot of that stuff out. But other than that, I did play little bits of like say Shredder's Revenge on the PS5. Still a fun ass game, man. I mean, it's very telling to me that a good quality beat 'em up, you don't have to like just involve a lot of time investment or something into that. You just play a couple stages and you feel pretty good about it. That's pretty much me because I played all the way to like about chapter 5 or something like that, or stage 5 in that damn game, and I'm still enjoying the hell out of it. Still enjoying little portions of it. It's the same thing with Dodgeball Academia. Played a little bit of that as well, and like I'm got to where and I'm like what chapter 5? I think I was like on I finished up like chapter 4 in terms of that stuff because I beat the Onion Kid and stuff like that and his team that is trying to keep you from like advancing onto the tournament and stuff, and just not blackmailing, but like setting you up in terms of like getting a detention stuff just the same date of like you facing off against his team or something like that in that dodgeball tournament. But yeah, both of those games, Dodgeball Academia and then Shredder's Revenge, excellent games. Excellent games that is just one of the handful that I have finished in the past couple of years to where I feel comfortable just replaying certain aspects of them, and it feels almost exactly the same type of fun that I had with like the other ones, like the
mhm.
first time I played them, I should say. But other than that, though, that's really much what I've been
All right.
playing.
So I mentioned at the top here, I've only really playing one game, one new game, and been playing Oxenfree 2. I've only been able to play for like about an hour and a half, so I've just been very tired today. So, um,
Yeah,
and so people, I played Oxenfree back in like it was 2016. I bought it when like day came out. Super pumped for this game because it was like a lot of people that worked on like the Telltale Walking Dead games. Skybound, I believe, published it, which is the people that um, published like like Telltale Walking Dead stuff like that. Like that's actually the creator
yeah,
of Walking Dead. Like that's his studio. So incredibly pumped for this. This is Night School is the name of the publisher. They did like Oxfree. Then they also did After Party, which that game was great as well. Um, and now they're owned by Netflix. So I think if you have a Netflix subscription, you can just play the game on your phone. But it's on like PlayStation and Switch and Steam as well. But anyways, I adored the game in 2016. Oxenfree won, and like was banging the table for this game. And then I remember like a bunch of people like it came out on Switch shortly after launch, and like it had like a sale for like $5. Like it seemed like the game really kind of blew up more after that. I remember a lot of people just kind of talk about the game after that. But anyways, so this game that's like it's a very unique art style, and the fact that like so it's like a 2D side scroll, but it's like very zoomed out, so like you can't really see faces or anything like that. But it's a narrative adventure. We solving puzzles and stuff along the way. But like the first game, like you go to, I believe it's God, was it Emerald Island? I want to say, but it takes place in Washington State. Um, and it's like an island. Like these kids in the first game, like these kids, like I believe they're partying on a beach, and like a bunch of random shit like happens, and like they're like I'm just gonna kind of spoil kind of the idea of what happens in the first game. So like basically you find out like this island that you're on is like a like they were like it was like during World War II like a submarine with a bunch of American soldiers on it like sank or exploded or something happened, and like they were doing like these weird experiments, and like you're in a, like you could see the ghost, and like it's all like a bunch of shit's happening through like radio transmissions. You have like a radio, you can like actually like go through all the like the channels and shit like you can find. And that's what you use a lot of times to solve the puzzles. And but it's all like the main the gist of the whole game is like really about the characters, and like you like have the conversations as you're walking through these through the island, stuff like that. You know, it's decent size, and like the conversations, like the relationships you build along the way, really type of what so it's about. Like you can like pick what you want to
Right.
say back to them on the conversations you have, and I really like that one. Love that game, and this one it's kind of a it builds up. It's I believe it's 5 years after this one happens, and you're actually this one you play as Riley, and like she like grew up in the town that like it's nearby, and she like left. She comes back, and then like she's working with her partner Jacob. They're working for this company. It's like basically they're putting like uh, transmissions down to like kind of I'm not really sure what the fuck they're doing it for, but basically putting like they're working for a company to like kind of set up stuff to like study the island and stuff. And you know, like I said, you're Riley, and you have a partner Jacob that's with you, and you're working together, and like to put down these satellites or transmissions to like do this job for this company, and basically just kind of shit happens from there, and with like there's more transmission shit that happens, and it's just kind of like this mystery of like okay what's going on. You're learning more about like what happened with these ghosts and like why they're here, and I'll just like to me the best part of this is just like learning about like these characters, like their backstories, and like okay, like Riley has this
Right.
she wanted a reset in her life, and it's like okay, why she want that reset? Jacob is like he grew up in the town, he never left. Okay, what's going on with Jacob here? Like you have people you talk to on the walkie, you have other people you're talking to on the walkie-talkie. There's Evelyn, who's like the person that like hired you to do the job. You're talking to her, and she's kind of like just kind of learning about these characters. Like that's what all. So the more than anything, it's like it's just learning about these characters. Like they do such a great job of building that growth of the characters. And like I said, I'm only like about 90 minutes in, and the problem with like a lot of these games, not really, it's not so much of a problem, I guess, but like like the Life is Strange games or like any of these kind of like narrative driven games, the first hour is always it takes a little bit to get going, because like it's so much setup. There's a lot of setup because obviously you're introducing a lot of characters, and just kind of like the idea of why they're coming here, and like but like I feel like that first like 45 minutes was like a lot of that, and then like now I'm like okay cool, like now I'm into the game, like shit's happening. What like you're solving them now. You're like now I'm getting to like the puzzle solving, learning about like Jacob and Riley and Evelyn and these other people you bump into along the way, and like what's going on this island. But like I'm loving all that. But what does suck though, my one complaint I have is like you have these conversations, and like every area, like if you want to go to the next area, it'll like go to a load screen, and you'll go to the next one. The load screen's not long; it's a few seconds, not a big deal. But what sucks sometimes, and like it will tell you like you hit the X button to go to the next screen. It'll say conversation will continue. When you go to the next screen, and sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. So I'll be in the middle of a conversation learning about like one of the points is like Jacob was telling me like an important story about like this like lady that he met. It was actually about the story that the main storyline, and I went through the next area, but it triggered the next event in the story, so like it just stopped. So I'm like I just missed, and now like the stories continue on. I'm like okay, I missed like I got the gist of what was happening, what he was gonna tell me, but it's like I missed a whole chunk of stuff here, or even side conversations that aren't really necessary to the plot. I'm like, well, I just missed. I want to know about this, so like now I'm like sitting here like I don't want to go to the next screen because like I don't want to miss this conversation. So I'm just like sitting here, like instead of like continuing progressing and like where I need to go, because it's a bit of a hike to like the conversations are what fills the time in between the walks to those places. And
Right.
now I'm just standing here listening to the conversation. Now I'm gonna have long walks of silence, possibly because I'm afraid to like lose this conversation because I'm so interested in these characters that I don't want to miss that. And like at one point, we're like sometimes they'll set up like I don't know, like kind of like side quests where it's like, hey, if you bump into this, can you do this for me? Or if you find this, can you tell me? Like other characters will kind of give you like little things to do. Like they don't have to do; they're all optional. But it's like, hey, like or like a little mystery or something like that. And it's like I was there telling me one, and I was walking, I was talking to this person, and like, hey, if you find this, can you like let me know? I'm like, oh yeah, sure. And then like you're continuing a conversation, that you're explaining to you, like kind of giving you a hint of where the thing could be, and I trigger the next event. I'm like, fuck. So I'm like, I have no idea where I'm supposed to go now to even like possibly get this thing. I don't even actually know what the thing is I need to get. I just need to know like, yeah. So like that's like my one complaint I have now. It's like no, I'm just kind of like been these chunks of moments where I'm just kind of standing there waiting because I don't want to like at the edge of a screen because I don't want to click X to go to the next screen. So, but I love this game. This is my jam. I love these style games. Really happy that we got a second one. Never thought we would get a second one. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna play it some more. I'm gonna try to beat it tomorrow. I heard that it's like only like a 5 hour game. Um, yeah, and these kind of games are better to beat in short chunks. You want to beat them in a few sittings or a course of a couple days because it's so narrative driven. I don't want to like forget major things or like what I'm doing. So yeah, I'm loving the game so far though. But yeah, that's all I've been playing. So yeah, but I think that will do it for this week, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you like all that, please, like I said, top of the show, like, follow, subscribe, go to Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, Facebook, uh, app podcast, Spotify, wherever podcasts are on, social media, whatever. Just look up Drunk Nerds podcast, look up Drunk Nerds or whatever. You can also look, in the description down below. There are links to all those things as well if you just want one click to get there. And like I said, hit that 5 stars, leave a review, share with your friends, tell your friends. Really appreciate if you did all that for us. But I was your host, I was Tyler.
I'm Colonel Gables. Until next time, everyone, thank you for listening to another fun filled episode of the Drunk Nerds podcast.
And hey, Gibbles,
Yep.
too sweet.
You sweet man.
Bye, guys.
See ya.